And honor of introducing the man of the hour, and I've been sitting by him all evening. You guys are in for quite a treat. 4 years after working for the New York Police Department, Dan Bongino joined the U.S. Secret Service in 1999. In 2006, he joined the elite Presidential Protective Division, initially providing protection for George W. Bush and then for President Obama. Mr. Bongino was the lead agent responsible for coordinating President Obama's visit to an active war zone in Afghanistan. In 2011, Dan resigned from the Secret Service and twice ran for office as a Republican in Maryland. In 2014, Dan won his election for the U.S. Congress, but then days later was informed that he lost by just 1 point as the absentee ballot vote was finalized. I don't think it's knocked him down, though, because Mr. Bongino is a New York Times bestselling author of Life Inside the Bubble: Why a Top-Ranked Secret Service Agent Walked Away from It All. He provides expertise on international security and political strategy for Fox News, CNN, and many other big news stations. Dan is a regular guest host on the Sean Hannity and Mark Levine radio shows, along with guest hosting on Washington, D.C.'s WMAL radio. Dan Bongino is also a 2014 recipient of CPAC's Top 10 Under 40 Award, writes for Conservative Review, and blogs at danbongino.com. Easy enough to remember. In January, Dan will release his new book titled The Fight: A Secret Service Agent's Inside Account of Security Failings and the Political Machine. Please join me in welcoming Dan Bongino.
I'm not checking text or anything. I never speak from notes, but there was so much good stuff to fit in. So I took like 4 or 5 things as Twyla was talking, I had to squeeze in there. You know, I have a bum left shoulder, so I have to learn to clap. You know, you clap this way a lot. I have to learn to do it this way to keep it's weird. The clap is not working tonight. So I assure you I'm clapping for everyone, even if it's not making a lot of sound. But thank you for having me. And before I get started, I just want to kind of reiterate what's been said a couple times because it can't be said enough. You know, you have a person in this room who is absolutely beloved by the people that matter in DC and feared by the people that don't. I am the furthest thing from a DC insider, I assure you. If you doubt that, just Google Dan Bongino divorces the Republican Party and you can read for yourself. But Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, I just want to thank you for, you know, listen, I was never elected. You know, winning and losing means you lost. There's no silver medals in politics. I never won. But having been privileged in the last couple of years to get to run in some circles with some people who know some people who know some people, I can tell you, this is a warrior for the cause right here. And it is truly an honor to be in this room with you tonight. So I appreciate you coming out and everything you did. There are some good people left. Yeah. Very few, but there are some good people left. So before I jump in, I was just thinking, I was at the table, we were talking about some Secret Service stuff. I kind of missed the good old days. I was thinking about this time we were at Martha's Vineyard with President Obama, and we had this, I used to be a New York City cop, and we had these Massachusetts state police officers with us. And these were the 2 hardest men I'd ever met. Square jaw, but like 6'5", never smiled. Once in a while they'd turn around and look at me, and I was the lead advance, so I was in the lead car. The lead car is always a police car. And I was with these Massachusetts state police guys. I love these guys, but I'd buy them lunch, they'd say thank you, and that was it. They never said a word. So we're like 4 or 5 days into this trip. And, you know, shockingly, we're on a golf course with President Obama. I know you're stunned. I know, I know it. I know you're all, we were on a golf course out there. I think it was Great Neck or whatever it was. And he's out there with Mayor Bloomberg at the time. They're golfing, probably talking about how to confiscate your guns or something like that. And we get this violation of the FRIZ, the flight restricted zone. And you know, usually that happens a lot. Planes fly through. They don't, you know, it's usually some pilot who didn't read the NOTAM or something. But this thing's really coming at us, and it's kind of like bullseye right towards you. So you want to know, of course, the altitude and the direction. And I'm the lead, and everybody can hear you on the radio when you're talking to squiggly earpiece. Everybody can hear what you're saying. And, you know, give me an update. And every minute, this thing's getting closer and closer. So I had to, and of course we have this thing called lunchbox radio, and it was in the back of the Massachusetts State Police car. So after about 5 minutes, I'm getting really worried that this could be the real deal. Either it's an errant pilot or someone who's going to fly right over us, and it's going to be a really bad day. So we call in this, F-22, and it comes in and it buzzes that thing. That was the end of that. We didn't see that guy again. We met him at the airport. That's we do that. We did that kind of stuff a lot. Unfortunately, I wish we didn't have to. But I didn't think anything of it. So I go in the car that day, and I'm telling you, these guys hadn't said a word to me the whole trip. The toughest guys. Guy turns around and says, "That was the coolest damn thing I have ever seen in my life, the F-22 Raptor." So just to break the ice, it was the funniest thing. That's the only words he said to me the whole trip. He heard the whole thing going on. F-22 is buzzing him. I said, "What, you guys don't buzz the president with F-22s? Come on." All right, getting into my topic tonight, Obamacare. When Twyla asked me to talk about this, it was such a natural for me to say yes. I'm just personally and professionally fascinated with healthcare and healthcare economics, because when government runs the healthcare system, and government runs everything, the ability to live or die when controlled by a bureaucrat, or what Thomas Sowell would call the anointed ones, is there anything else left? I mean, do you really have political or economic liberty if you don't have healthcare liberty? And does it matter? Very serious question I think you all know the answer to. But I had to take a note here quick, because as I was coming in tonight, I was listening to a phenomenal podcast. Russ Roberts, who does the Econ Talk. I don't know if any of you listen to it. He's just amazing. He's a Stanford Hoover Institution guy. And he had an author on. And the author, ironically, was definitely a far leftist. But ironically, the author he had on was making the case for conservatism while he was talking. And it relates to what I'm talking tonight, because what I'm going to talk about tonight, because we have to understand the power. What the author was talking about was narratives, the power of narratives, the power of stories. There's a reason human beings are different. We're not ants. Like, ants only work collectively because it's built into the gene code. The minute you you screw up the plan, the whole thing goes awry. Human beings don't do that. We can act collectively together. We can change a plan like that. But the narratives that bind us together and allow us to act collectively, for good, not by government force. The narratives for conservatives and the narratives for liberals are completely different. The story that binds us together, conservatives and liberals, are family history, religion, church, community, voluntary interactions, things you do because you want to be there, because you want to be a part of a better tomorrow. You don't have to be forced to be part of it. That's what's always bound us all together. But that's not what binds the left together. What binds the left together is this narrative somehow that government, that some third-party bureaucrat with a bow tie eating foie gras in Washington, D.C., somehow knows what's better. It's probably the truth. I'm sure, Congresswoman, you've seen a few of them. That they know what's better for your life than you. Folks, this is a very pernicious narrative. This narrative has never gone away. The narrative never will go away. And I'll end my speech on that when I'm done. Now, it's about the fight. This fight will never end. We are part of a generational battle against this narrative that somehow a bureaucrat, elected official, a tyrant, a dictator, it doesn't matter, some third party with the power of a monopolistic government behind him that owns the power of force is somehow going to make your life better because you couldn't make it better yourself. Now, why do I bring up that narrative? There was an old radio host in San Francisco. He was talking about the Freedom Train, how the Freedom Train leaves the station, and how we've never turned it back. We've only slowed it down in the Reagan years, maybe a couple of times under a couple of Bush policies. But we've never turned that Freedom Train around. And the reason we've never turned that Freedom Train around is because we failed to explain to the American people what exactly Obamacare is and why it's a problem. I'll bet there are people in the room tonight. I mean, I just learned something from Twyla. I study Obamacare as a matter of my livelihood, and there are things I learn every day. But we have failed as a Republican Party to make Obamacare bleed for people. That was our campaign line. Make it bleed, make it real, make it touchable, put it on a darn Wheaties box. Make it an 8-second elevator speech that people will get it. And we don't do that. We don't. We as conservatives don't do that. We as libertarians don't do that. We as Republicans don't do that. We as Democrats fighting for liberty don't do that. Because we have the facts on our side, sometimes we feel the need to get buried in these facts and we lose the narrative. We never attack the story. It's the story that's faulty. It's the story that government is somehow going to rescue you, that government is somehow going to save the day that is wrong. Now, whenever I was out in the campaign trail and had the opportunity to talk in front of people, I would quote the late, great Milton Friedman. I'm an Austrian school guy. Friedman's a Chicago school guy, but I love Friedman. No one explained economics better than Friedman. And he used to say all the time about government, really, government's going to fix your problems? How? What's the incentive? He would tell people this. He'd say, there are 4 ways to spend money, right? And only 4. If anyone here has another way, let me know. The first way to spend money is the most efficient. You can spend your own money on yourself, right? When you spend your own money, whether it be a healthcare dollar or whatever it may be, on yourself or your family, what matters? Cost matters, right? It's your money. Does quality matter? You're darn right it does. It's your chest getting cracked open. What's the second way to spend money? A lot less efficient. You can spend your own money on someone else. If you spend your money on someone else's healthcare, does the cost matter? It's your money. Does the quality? Probably because you're a good person, but honestly, it doesn't matter as much as when it was your chest getting cracked open. What's the third way? Other people spending other people's money on themselves. Little less efficient, right? But if I'm spending taxpayer money on my own health care, I don't care about the cost. I want the best doctor around, but at least I care about the quality, right? What's the fourth way? Other people spending other people's money on other people. Does cost matter? It's not your money. Does quality matter? It's not your product either. Of course it doesn't matter. Why do you think Congress gave themselves an exemption to Obamacare? And yes, the exemption is real. The exemption happened, folks. They exempted themselves. You think they aren't aware of the incentives of the narrative that government is somehow going to change your life? If it was going to change your life, why did they exempt themselves from this horrid program? They did it because they knew the quality was going to stink because it was other people spending other people's money on other people. Grassley put that in the bill to force these men and women to vote on something that was going to impact their lives, to put their skin in the game, and they didn't do it. They got out of it. They had OMB fix it for them. Folks, we've tried this over and over and over again, this government intervention in free markets. Free markets. Capitalism, right? We always get lost in capitalism. We try to explain it away like it's some kind of religion. What is capitalism? It's the ability to own private property. Anybody find that weird or confrontational in any way? You want to own your own house? You're a capitalist. You want to trade your labor for wages? I got news for you. If you're an employee anywhere, you're a capitalist. You believe in a price model instead of rationing. I got news for you. You're a capitalist. If you went to the grocery store and didn't get on a cheese line, then you're a capitalist. We always find this confrontational explaining this away. How somehow capitalism is this weird voodoo religion. Yet look what they offer you. What do they offer you? They've tried this over and over and over again. Every time they intervene in a private market and try to determine the price of any product, what happens? Anytime you get a price control, you get the same things every time. The government sets a ceiling for price, which they're doing through IPAB, this Independent Payments Advisory Board. It is going to ration by price. That's what it's going to do. It is going to say to a doctor, we are going to pay $7,000 for this procedure that cost you $15,000 to do. Of course the doctor's not going to do it. But IPAB's going to say, oh no, we didn't ration. We're forbidden by law from rationing. Folks, this is how slick these people are. So they ration, and every time we get a price control, whether by rationing or by de facto price rationing, you see the same thing. You see increased demand. Why? Why is there going to be increased demand for healthcare? Because you're not paying. Oh, you're paying all right. You're just not paying out of your wallet. You're paying out of hers. You are going to see increased demand. It happens every time you put a price control on something. You are going to see decreased supply. Why would you see that? Because why are you going to perform a surgery for $7,000 that costs your office $15,000? You're going to do what every other doctor does, like my brother-in-law is going to do. You're going to retire. If it costs you $4,000 to turn the lights on in the morning and to pay your people, you're not going to show up for $3,500. And keep in mind, some of these benevolent prophets out there on the left, prophets with a PH, who decry prophets with an F in medicine, they don't work for free. They don't work for free anywhere. These people take a salary, but they don't want any profits in medicine. What else do you see happen? You see black markets develop. Why do you see black markets develop? You see them develop because people don't want to deal with the government when they find out what the government really does. It's ironic that the left always, they love big government, but they'll never go to the DMV or the post office. But they'll talk about how wonderful it is. You know, they don't want to go to the post office to mail a letter, but they want to call a bureaucrat to have their chest cracked open. This is insanity. We are going down a very dangerous road. The Obama administration has been very slick with the implementation of this. And this is very damaging. Those Gruber videos were damning. There's one portion of a video where he says at one point, he explains the pernicious effects of the Cadillac tax, how they didn't index it to inflation. Why didn't they do that? They didn't do that because what the government wants is they don't want this employer-focused healthcare program. They want the power in their corner. So what they did is they implemented this Cadillac tax, knowing in the future that inflation was going to subject everyone in this room to it. So what was it going to do? It was either going to tax you when the government was going to get the money, or it was going to force you to pay for those services and tax them later in a side market. Either way, they control it. It worked beautifully for them. This is what they did. They wanted to scoop everybody up gradually so you never notice, the old frog in the boiling water analogy. We are in a really, really dangerous place. You know, that freedom train left a long time ago. And I travel around a lot, not as much as I used to. My shoulder's kind of killing me these days. It's left shoulder's. Benny, orthopedist in the room. I'm upstairs in room 1570. You want to cut me up afterwards, I'll take it. It is a mess. But it's just frightening what's happened to me and my family. You know, premiums up $300-400 a month, deductibles, co-pays. I just found out I owed $968 before I show up for surgery next Wednesday because it's out of network, but it was in a network. But the Treasury, the Treasure Coast Surgery Center's in a network, but the hospital isn't. They're not approved by the government. The damage the government's done is really unbelievable. But I want to leave you with this thought. I ran in, for all you political wonks out there, I ran for Congress in what's called a D+6 district. It's the Cook Partisan Value Index. D+6 means there's a whole lot of Democrats in the district. I'll just leave you at that, rather than explaining the wonkery of it. It was a tough district to win. The guy who won was the wealthiest Democrat in Congress. Nice guy, actually. You still talk to him once in a while. He's worth about $250 million. He beat the Republican in the race prior to me by 22 points. He won by 80,000 votes. So everybody told me, you know, I mean, if they can just be candid, you're an idiot. What are you running there for? I said, because I can beat this guy. I said, no, you can't. He said, numbers aren't there. I said, no, I can beat this guy. I performed really well in the Senate race in his district, and I'm going to beat him. They said, nah, you're too conservative. I said, really? What? I don't get it. Like, what's the tough sell? No, you're too conservative. You can't talk about that stuff. Yeah, I said, you're right. People hate keeping their own money, picking where their kids go to school, and picking their health care plan. That's crazy stuff. So, you know, I challenge you to watch any of my YouTube videos or commercials, and you'll see I ran in a D+6 district. In one county in the district, which was 60% of the district, was the registration disadvantage was 70-30, 70% Democrat, 30% Republican. And we won on election night. We won by 1,500 votes. We lost 5 days later, no silver medals. But it goes to prove a point. Liberty sells. Liberty sells. Stick it on a Wheaties box. People always want to make their own decisions for their families. Liberalism's good in theory. It's the real world. It's never been able to figure out. So I challenge you going forward, because we live in a really prosperous time. We do. You know, I know President Obama's been tough on the country. I know that. I'm not going to dispute that. I would have proudly given my life for the man. This is not a third world republic. We do our damage in the voting booth. The country made a mistake. We'll figure that mistake out. We always do. We needed Jimmy Carter to get to Ronald Reagan. I'm hoping we need Barack Obama to get to... I was just going to say that, so but I'm almost there. Yeah. But if you look at the world's common religions, right, there's this theme of sacrifice in every one. And we live in this prosperous time where we're not asked to go to Valley Forge. You're not asked to walk around in the snow with no shoes and eat, boiled shoe leather. Now that happened. You're not asked in 1812, to sit there in the middle of a rainstorm and try to defend the city, Washington, D.C., as it was about to fall to the British. You're not asked in the Civil War to go fight your brother because he lived 100 miles south of you and kill him over the scourge of slavery. You're not asked to go fight the Nazis. Many of you may have been, but we're not now. You're not asked to go to Vietnam. We live in a very prosperous time, paid for by the people, some in this room, who did that. I'm asking you, when you leave tonight, to take up that mantle of sacrifice and to go out and do something. Go out and change the world. I gave up my job in the Secret Service. It was the toughest decision I ever made. I didn't retire. People report that all the time. I resigned. I got nothing. I left. I walked away. No, I'm not rich. I don't make a lot of money. I just bought my first, I guess what you call nice house. I lived in a standard old pedestrian middle-class house my entire life. I grew up above a bar where we used to catch rats with peanut butter for fun. We had nothing. You did that too? It's actually not that fun, but you have to find a way. We couldn't go out in Myrtle Avenue and play, so that's what we did. But I left. I walked away because I was looking at the same country, this beautiful place. Sometimes there's a flag up, sometimes there's not, but that flag stands for something. That stands for an idea never seen anywhere on earth in human history. That is an idea. It's not a tablecloth. It's not a curtain. It doesn't mean anything if not for the idea behind it that some of the people in this room gave their own flesh and blood or their families for. All we're asking is a sacrifice to continue this and go forward. Go out and register some voters. Go out and volunteer for a campaign. Go out and help Twyla with her campaign. This isn't a political speech. I'm not running for anything. But go out and do, because it's action that changes the world. Talk is cheap. If talk doesn't motivate action and for you to do something, we will be stuck looking at it tomorrow, wishing we had the good old days back. Remember, it's only in the United States where there's that expectation that tomorrow is going to be better. Go ask the Cubans what a 1960 Buick looks like. Not what a 2015 Lexus does, because they have no idea. You only know that here in this place because it's worth fighting for. This is the greatest country on earth. And fight this thing, fight this Obamacare to your last dying breath, because this is what's going to take us down. It's the idea that government is not about healthcare, it's about control. So please, fight back. A little bit of sacrifice goes a long way. Thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks.